Welcome back, fellow friends and viewers. We give honor and glory to the Almighty Father for the life He has given unto us. Remember, there is somebody lying somewhere in the hospital or back at home, is unable to eat, unable to walk, he is not able to do his daily routines. But for you, God has given you and has enabled you to do it as usual. Before we crisscross, let us dedicate them to the Almighty Father for the power of healing so that they are able to walk again and go back to their duties. In our last episode, we saw how Dinah was defiled, but today we want to see what happens in episode 35. We go straight to it and see what it entails. Jacob returns to Bethel. Then God said to Jacob, Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes. Come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now, Deborah Rebekah's nurse died and was buried under the oak outside Bethel, so it was named Alon Bakuth. After Jacob returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he pursued out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. Wonderful. The death of Rachel and Isaac. Then they moved on from Bethel while they were still some distance from Ephrath. Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having a great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, Don't despair, for you have another son. As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben Oni. But his father named him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and on to this day, that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Midgal Ida, where Israel was living in that region. Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah: Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob; Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel: Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's servants Bilhah, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's servants Zilpah, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. We have read that book. What are the lessons? I would want to tell you that Jacob's spiritual renewal, God's faithfulness, and the fulfillment of covenant promises despised personal traits. Here are the major key lessons and reflections from this chapter that we have just read. 1. Call to return to Bethel. God called Jacob to return to Bethel, the place where he first encountered him, and that is in Genesis 28, 10 to 22. Jacob obeys, meaning purifies his household and removes foreign gods. This foreign gods is a matter that you need to sit back and ask yourself. When you are entering the temple of God, are you supposed to have these foreign gods? Because people have got rings in their noses, people have got rings in their fingers, people have got necklaces, people have got earrings, and they have converted them to their gods. They can't walk, they can't do away, they can't do anything without them. So these were orders from God that they were supposed to be left, and Jacob went ahead and buried them. So ask yourself, whatever you are having within your body, is it your God? Is a foreign God that we are talking about here? Now, reflections. Returning to Bethel symbolizes renewal of faith and repentance. So that is exactly what is happening, or what happened by that time, and is what should happen today in our current lives. True worship requires spiritual cleansing, letting of idols. I will still emphasize on that. Letting go of idols, sins, and distractions. Those idols, those rings distract in the church. It is the reason why in some other churches you're not even allowed to have a watch, a wristwatch, because they are treated as idols. They do not let others sit well. They are like they bring the spirit of jealousy in the house of the Lord, because somebody sees you with a very expensive watch at your wrist, and then he starts to admire it, and that confusion, you understand what I'm talking about. Under reflections, we say God often calls us back to where we first met him, to restore our commitments and faith. Yes, you may slide today, but God will again come for you, so that you go back to where you had the rains had started beating you. It is allowed. Be ready to do that. Now, God's protection on the journey, that is part of the lesson. The terror of God falls upon the surrounding cities, preventing them from attacking Jacob's family. When they were supposed now to start the journey, then the terror of God fell. So nobody could attack them. Nobody could even think of following Jacob's family. Deborah, Rebecca's nurse, dies and is buried, marking the end of an era. There are reflections on that particular lesson. When we walk in obedience, God protects, or God's protection goes before us. When we walk in obedience, God's protection goes before us. God is ever in front. Actually, He covers, He protects you from wherever you go. Reflection two is, even in times of loss, God's presence brings comfort and continuity. People died on the way, but God had to bring uh, continuity, comfort, and continuity. It's a wonderful lesson. Faithful people like Deborah remind us of the value of quiet service to God's plan. Be faithful at all times and be like Deborah so that you see the value and that God is planning to share with you. Yes, it's a good one. God appears and reaffirms the covenant. What lesson are we learning? God appears to Jacob again, blesses him, and reaffirms his new name as Israel. He was now advised and directed that as from today you are dropping. Are you also able to drop your name, a name that you do not deserve? Going forward now, you capture a new name. In your village, have you been rebaptized? People are seeing you differently from what they used to see or what they used to know. It's very important. God appears to Jacob again and blessed him, and that reaffirms his new name. God repeats his promises. Faithfulness, nations and kings shall come from Jacob, and the land given to Abraham and Isaac shall be his descendants. It's a huge promise that God is making. Is not only making this promise to Jacob, fellow viewers, God is making a huge promise to you right now that you are listening, right now that you are following this lesson. Reflection on that particular lesson. God's promises are unchanging even when we fail or wonder. God's promise can never change. So if He has promised to do something good for you, be ready for it. Spiritual renewal brings restored identity and purpose. When your spirit is renewed, you get a new life, you feel rejuvenated, you feel you want to go, you feel refreshed, and that is the work of the Lord. The altar at Bethel signifies worship and gratitude for God's covenant faithfulness. Very important. Now, Rachel's death and Benjamin's birth. What lesson are we learning here? Rachel dies giving birth to Benjamin, fulfilling God's promise of descendants, but through personal gain. Jacob names him Benjamin, son of my right hand, a name of honor and blessing. Lesson we are learning. God's blessings may come with sacrifice and sorrow, but His plan still brings purpose. Remember, your wife is dying and at the same time giving birth. It's a sacrifice and sorrow. Rachel's death reminds us of life of fragility, even in moments of joy. Life fragility. life is fragile, even in the moments of joy. So be careful. Offer yourself to God. Remember, I said that there are those that are lying in the hospital that we need to pray for. We dedicate them to God. That is what we're talking about, life's fragility here. Now, faith means trusting God's goodness through both birth and loss. These are all part and parcel of life. We give birth and at the same time we lose. Yes. Now, Reuben's sin. Listen, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, sins by sleeping with Bilhah, his father's concubine. Pay attention here. Sin always brings consequences and affects family legacy. So if you sin is sin, but it brings about consequences which are dire, and it affects family legacy. A family that was moving so positively, then such happens, like what happened when Reuben had to sleep with Bilhah. Now, another lesson or reflection that we learning here, moral failure shows the importance of self-control and respect for God's order. Moral failure. Let us not be controlled. Let us not be overcarried by moral desires. That is what we are learning. Later, Reuben's action cost him his birthright. We can get that from Genesis 49, 3 to 4. Read so that you get exactly what we're talking about here. The death of Isaac. What lesson are we learning on this one? Jacob returned to his father Isaac. In Mamre, Isaac dies peacefully and is buried by both Esau and Jacob. What a reflection are we getting? Reconciliation between brothers Esau and Jacob brings closure and peace. It is important always to reconcile. Don't carry grudge with you. God's promise continued through generations. Faithfulness from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Be faithful all along, all through. Don't wait to be supervised. The chapter closes with honor, family unity, and fulfillment of God's covenant plan. That is how that chapter closes. In a very peaceful manner, in a very Christian way, very faithful way. Now, let us get overall reflections. Renewal. God gives second chances when we return to Him. Even you, God will give you another chance. Obedience brings protection and blessings. Faithfulness, God never forgets His promises, even when we falter. Loss and hope. God's plan continues even through human pain. Legacy. A faithful walk with God leaves a generational impact. God bless you. Till we meet again, you wonderful. Keep subscribing to our channel. We love you. Thank you. Bye.